So Geo-Distribution. This is one of my favorite features in Redis Enterprise. And so what is the problem we're trying to solve? Well, many of our customers came to us and said, look, we love our data in Redis, but we've got multiple data centers, we've got multiple regions. And what we want to ensure is that if data changes in one of those data centers or one of those regions, that the data is kept synchronized. And so if you use a synchronous solution where every write has to be guaranteed to be in every place, then you get a very slow product. So we did a ton of research. We worked with a whole bunch of university professors, and we used something called CRDTs, or conflict-free data types. And what this allows us to do is it allows us to, in each one of these data centers or geographies, accept writes. Those two writes can occur in parallel, and using CRDTs, we can then coalesce to a single correct value across both of those. And the nature of Redis has allowed us to do this really fast, because by each data type, we can actually put different rules in place to see how those data types get resolved. Right? A string will get resolved differently to a counter, to a hash, to a list, and so on and so forth. So this is great for disaster recovery, because it means that if you lose a data center, you know the data is already in the other data center and it's already writable. So that's one way that you can use active-active. One of the common ways we see is session management. And so I'm sure you'll remember the days where you're on a website, your shopping basket was super full, and then you went to check out and it went empty. Well, why did your shopping basket suddenly go empty? Well, that session state was either living on a different server and you got pinned to a different server, or that whole data center was lost and that session state wasn't replicated to the other data center. So if you now store your session data in Redis Enterprise and use active-active, then that session state is now globally replicated. You lose a data center, your session state is now there for when you reestablish that connection. So that's another way you can use active-active. The final way is for globally distributed applications, right? Sometimes you have an application where you need to be able to accept writes in the location that's closest to you. But you want to make sure that state is replicated elsewhere. So a great example of that is gaming, right? I've just purchased this widget, or I've just acquired this widget in this game. I want to write that data locally as fast as possible. I don't want to wait for a distributed write to occur. But I also want to ensure that anybody else in that game also knows I've got that widget. And so that data gets replicated through all those data centers. So here are a bunch of ways that you can use active-active, whether it's in regular commerce or kind of fun things building a multiplayer game. How does this compare to other solutions out there? There are a ton of other ways of doing this. You've got systems like Cassandra and DynamoDB that do eventual consistency. And they will coalesce the values to the same state, typically around about 100 milliseconds. Then there's technologies like Spanner, which do strong consistency, which means that you have to update all the data in every place. And so you're going to get a much longer latency, kind of 200 milliseconds, say. Where we think our CRDT solution really makes the difference is that you can do that write operation in less than a millisecond. And now you've now got a strong consistency of that data for all those other data centers as those conflicts then get resolved down the road. And so this makes this solution really, really different and very interesting for particular use cases. But we're at a cloud conference, right? Do you want to be able to do this in the cloud? I certainly do. I don't want to run anything anymore. I want to have a managed service doing this for me. And so you can get active-active in a Redis Enterprise Cloud as well to solve all of these use cases. And as you go from sort of simple active-passive replication on the left-hand side, you're going to get 3 nines of availability. If you go all the way to the right-hand side and have active-active with CRDTs, you're going to get 5 nines of availability. And this does completely changed the way that you can think about how you serve data to your customers.